How to build a good software at product manager's perspective?
I think it ultimately boils down to team dynamics, right? You could have great people on a team, but if they don't gel and if they can't figure out a way to work together effectively, then it's all for naught, right? And you're not going to achieve as much as you could have. And so, yes, I think team dynamics is key. I think clear communication and collaboration is key as well. But what's also key is making sure that you don't wander too far afield, right? To make sure that you're building the right thing. And so you want small loops where you build something and then you measure whether you're solving the problem that you set out to solve or not. And then you learn from your interaction with customers and from analytics and metrics and things of that sort.
The effective way working with the designers and developers?
So for me, I find it most useful to do cross-functional pairing with designers and developers, right? So that has a couple of advantages. One, it gives you the opportunity to work with somebody one-on-one, and people can often be completely different animals in a group setting versus one-on-one, right? And so this is especially true if you have a difficult relationship with a member of your team. Working with them one-on-one really gives you that opportunity to bond and understand each other and develop a little bit of empathy for each other. So that's very useful. And so ultimately, I think it boils down to empathy, right? Just like designers need to spend time with their users to get into that headspace and really empathize with them. Similarly, I think product managers need to spend some time deeply engaging with the problems that their designers and developers are working on, so that they can empathize with that perspective as well.
How was your experience working with the Samsung guys?
It was great. I have had very little exposure to Korea. I've only flown through Seoul a couple of times. I've spent a couple of days at the airport, but no meaningful, immersion in the Korean culture. So it was actually great to work with Sunho, Russell, Han, and Jackie, whom I spent a lot of time with. Jackie was my pair on the project, and it was really interesting to watch his perspective evolve from day one. I remember. Week one, he was very, very concerned about, where are the product requirement documents, when are we going to generate specifications, and he was, it was consuming him, right? And as the weeks wore on, and he saw us produce great product with very little or no documentation most of the time, I saw that begin to change, right? It was like watching the light bulb go off. He suddenly started to realize that, hey, maybe we don't need all of that, and all we really need is direct communication with the team, and for everybody to be right here. And I think that was a very different experience for him because he wasn't used to a cross-functional team where he could just step over and talk to his designer or his developer. I think it was a meaningful experience for him as well.
So. Hey.
Look at the How do you come up with the good design at your perspective?
Well, actually solving some kind of problem or improving somebody's life and making it better, it comes from there. And to make something good is about understanding who it's for and making it comfortable to use and easy to use, and really, really thinking about their experience outside of the screen, but how they're moving around in the world. I think that's where it starts from.
And then keeping it simple, focusing your efforts to solve a real problem rather than trying to solve a number of problems at the same time. That's really key too. Minimalism is great.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of working as a pair among designers?
It keeps your focus. I mean, it's you're both trying to solve the same problems, and you really get past those mental blocks when you're kind of stuck inside your own head. So always talking out problems together, always moving on to the next thing, and really working with someone on the same project really helps you keep the flow going, keep the collaboration going, and that momentum kind of helps you solve problems a lot faster than you normally would.
How was it, and how did you catch up with the knowledge and knowledge transition, something like that?
So I jumped to the project later on, and in order to get on the foot and like understand all the processes, I think the pair designing was really helpful because I was sitting with the designers and like we experienced like they showed me all the files, all the structures, like it's very easy to understand, everything is easy to pick up. I participated in the user research sessions, and like I think it was the very useful experience, so I can get into the project very quick and understand everything, what it is about, and like where we're moving and what we are trying to achieve.
What's the word? I don't remember.
How do you do the user sessions?
Oh, yeah.
So usually you found the users that you want to interview through the third-party services, or you can find it through the networking. It can be either from the client side or from our side. You try to interview the different kind of roles in the different kind of environment because you want to get the different perspectives. So let's say like you can interview a small store and you want to interview like a huge network store, so you can understand the different processes and like you can see the patterns that people have like in the behaviors, that like they have similar processes and different, and like you can analyze that and see like where you need to focus on. And there's one more.
What is
About the how it is to work with the PMs and engineers.
Yeah, that's that.
So we work very collaboratively. So like you work with PMs on a daily basis and with engineers. So I think it's more about like you do everything together. Like when you write scenarios, you want to input from every role. When you do sketching, you want to input from different role and like from all the roles. And like if you have any questions, you always can go and ask developers if it's possible from the technical side. If you have questions regarding the product, you can go to the stakeholders and ask, and like you're trying to keep everyone on the same page and like make sure that like everyone knows what we are building and where we're moving.
So first question, what makes you feel happy at work?
So what do I like about working at Pivotal? So I really enjoy the work environment. We pair program every day and we test drive. And we always feel like we're doing the most important thing for the project, which is really important. Our backlog is always prioritized to what is the most important thing for right now. And that always makes you feel like you're doing exactly what you should be doing. And every day we rotate pairs, which is also really great. So you never just sit on the same code day after day after day. You always have fresh eyes or new stories.
So what would you like working as an anchor at Pivotal Labs?
It's not much different than working as a developer. You just have a few more responsibilities. But I mean, really, it's just making sure all the developers are happy and that everything is moving along. And when people don't want to do things, you usually pick up that slack. So leading meetings and making sure everything is happening, being like kind of the voice of the developers.
How do you manage working with product manager and designers?
Working with the product managers and designers is pretty simple. It's all about communication. Communication is really, really important. So the second you have a question, you go directly to them, and that way things don't take, there's no big feedback loops. Everything gets handled immediately when problems arise, and there's always communication between, the PM and the developers and the designers and the developers to make sure that things are the way that they should be and that the context is being shared across, all the different parts. So everyone understands exactly where the product is going and what's important.
So how do you guys work with pairing? That's the first question.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages to pair programming. one of them is that you get stuck less often, because if you don't have a good idea about how to do something, you talk it through with your pair, and usually one of you has a better idea. Another big advantage is that it helps you stay focused, so it's easy to get distracted if you're by yourself and you start thinking about something else or go off on a tangent. Usually pairs keep each other honest, keep each other on track, doing the most important thing, just doing the work needed for this story so that we can move on to the next thing. Another really big advantage of pairing is that for any part of the code, 2 people have context on it. So 2 people have seen it. So if one person is sick the next day or has to leave the team for some reason, there's always people who know what's going on with all the parts of the code.
And it also is really helpful for learning about the code base, other languages, other frameworks and stuff. Like, I did not know Ruby for the longest time. Laura taught me a lot about Ruby, so now I feel semi-competent in it. So
Yeah, and I didn't know Android before I started working with Shane. Shane taught me what I know about Android.
These guys are acting.
Cut.
That's good. Then I'd like to ask is, can you imagine like you guys are working, you guys are living in a world without test codes?
Yeah, at my previous job I didn't have it, and so I know what that's like, and I will say that I don't want to go back to that world. It's really amazing having tests in your code because it takes away the fear that you have about refactoring. So I remember in my previous job, the code just grew and grew and became a huge tangled mess, but everybody was too afraid to restructure it and refactor it to make it clean and good for what we were trying to accomplish. And with tests, it just makes you less afraid. You are confident that you can change the code and you won't break the behavior. So that's the biggest advantage to me.
Why are you guys working as a small team? I mean, instead of a big team, like having 100 developers?
A small team can actually move much faster than a large team often because you don't have to get consensus between so many people. I think that there's, in any team, there's some amount of work that you put into the overhead of communicating between all the members and keeping everybody aligned, and then there's some amount of time that you spend doing the actual work of building the product. And so on a small team, the percentage of work that is keeping everybody aligned is small compared to the amount of work that you do to build the product. Whereas when you have large teams, the amount of work it takes to keep everybody on the same page grows sort of exponentially. So then you spend all your time in meetings and you don't get as much done.
I don't have anything to add on to that.
Also, it's nice because when you're in a small team, it's more fun. You get to talk to everybody and see everybody's faces every day, and you have a closer relationship with your colleagues.
I could have added that.
So, the first question is, how was your experience working with the Samsung guys? Do you remember like the day one and then the difference between the day one and then now? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see how much they've learned about our process in the few months that they've been here. Like at the beginning, you know, everything was very new and they were very excited and great to work with. And now I think they're really confident and will do a good job of taking it back to your guys' team.